hitting on people, flirting with people, whatever, there's a huge difference between just going up to a woman and being like, wow, you look really hot. Wow, that dress is really short. Oh man, I can see your tits. Oh, look at that ass kind of stuff. Because it's just like, okay, well, clearly I know you're horny right now, and you're basically just trying to be like, I like what I see. I would like to smash, please. That's very different than actually just having a conversation with someone as a human, getting to know them a little bit, maybe seeing them as more beyond this, the fact that they're hot. I mean, the hotness is great. It's awesome having sex with someone that you're really attracted to, and I would highly recommend it for everybody. Super, super base, but at the same time, the whole interaction doesn't have to be awkward for the other person. All right, time for some Noah Samson. We've been in the muck for too long.
Check out my cat. Check out my cat. Check out my cat. Babito. Her name's Babito. Babito. There goes Babito. Hey everyone, today we're going to be looking at a YouTube channel called It's Complicated Channel. The It's Complicated Channel. It's Complicated channel posts content of street interviews. It's one interviewer, the same one in each video, and he goes to the Las Vegas Strip at night and asks random people various questions about things like dating, relationships, sex, and gender. At the time of recording, they have about 180,000 YouTube subscribers and fairly consistently break 100,000 views on their videos. Other much larger YouTube channels, often Manosphere or Red Pill adjacent, have begun doing reaction videos to their content, and those are getting a lot of views. The late, not so great Kevin Samuels was a huge fan of this channel.
Shout out to the It's Complicated channel. Got some great content over there. When does it become harassment? That's why I love the shout out to the It's Complicated channel. I love a lot of the questions that men ask.
However, as you may have guessed based on the title of my video, or as you hopefully will start to pick up on as we watch, this channel differs from regular street interview channels because this channel has a little bit of an agenda.
If women are smarter than men, why do they keep believing men's lies and opening their legs? Why do you think women can't just ignore catcalling instead of just hating on all men? Why do so many women think they have the golden pussy when every woman has one? So you think that guys want to submit to a woman? Or do women want to submit to a...
I mean, you know, I've been with my fair share of women. I've never heard a woman go, I have the golden pussy. Like, there's one thing I know about dudes is they just love the golden pussy, and you happen to have the Midas touch. Oh yes.
Alpha male. Just because women feel afraid all the time, does that mean they really have a right to be afraid all the time?
If we look at the reception of this content, we can see that this agenda is being onboarded by the audience.
I have met a lot of men who think they have the golden dick. Hey baby, you're getting with the golden dick. That's right. It's quite heavy and hard to lift.
Top comments, the ones with hundreds, often thousands of likes, most indicative of the community's attitudes, usually look like this. Never underestimate a woman's ability to avoid accountability at all costs. I had an argument with my 8-year-old niece yesterday. I truly believe the thought processes and childlike antics between my niece and these
That's true. 50 Cent does have a song called Magic Stick, and it does slap.
women are no different. Shout out to this brother. He has a godly level of patience. Trying to understand what goes on in a woman's mind is like trying to explain color to a man that was born blind. The level of egos with these below average women is astonishing. Keep up the good work and love your videos. If it is a woman's right to withhold sex in a relationship, should it also be a man's right to withhold financial support to her in response? So basically, it's incel shit. Content designed to portray and foster negative attitudes towards women, putting women in their place, and just generally putting women down. Now, if you're someone who watches and enjoys the It's Complicated channel, I'm not here calling you an incel, per se. I'm not saying that you hate women. You might, but watching this channel alone doesn't necessarily mean that you do. But if I've got you here, I do.
And I just want to add this because I'm going to be going hard on this point from now on. All of those channels, the Manosphere ones, the pickup artist ones, this one, they hate men. Like Andrew Tate hates men. The fact that they're willing to grift dudes who are like looking for answers, who are out there being like, oh, I want to learn more about these kind of topics. It's hard to be able to talk about these things with my friends or family. Let me go on. I want to find out how to meet women. I want to find out how to pick up girls. I want to find out how to do this, blah, blah, blah. If they're going to take those people's money and then turn them into the biggest toxic assholes that they possibly can and make them hate women as much as they do, because that's what they do. They take in impressionable young men who are looking for these kind of answers, and then they try to transform them into pieces of shit. They hate men. They're making worse men. The very stereotypes that people say about dudes, they're trying to reinforce. They're trying to create more of it.
I want to take this opportunity to talk about why we, as men and boys, might want to view this media with a more critical eye, especially as it pertains to the narratives that we draw from what we are seeing. Narratives about the nature of women, modern females, and other stuff like that. Because as much as it may feel like this channel is challenging the status quo for you by asking the difficult questions, in many ways it's actually just pushing its own version of the status quo. The one where we take street interview clips and from them surmise that women ought to be seen and understood as liars, contradicting themselves, full of themselves, and needing to be humbled. As a member of the healthy boys only movement, I don't think that this is just the healthiest thing for everybody, or helpful in any way. So let's see how the Manosphere is reacting to this content.
They belong to the streets and do not wife them. Obviously they're unwifeable if this is what they think. Look at her every time. They are demons sucking you dry in a bad way. Not the good way, not down here. Your soul. Listen if you don't believe me.
Actually, I know I'm a prize.
No, you're not. Why are you a prize? You just know it because they're brainwashing you. They're empowering you too much. You got nothing going on. You worship Kim Kardashian. You're on Instagram all day. You have a vapid personality and you're an astrology hoe. There's nothing interesting about you. I guarantee it. You don't believe me? Come on the stream and try to charm me.
How can men and women ever be equal if pussy costs
And try to charm me. Okay. Yeah, because that sounds fun. It's like, that sounds like something that would be a good way to spend my day, is to go on that show and talk to you, just to have a rational, normal conversation about fun things.
more money than
I don't care. Give me more money for my pussy, whore. I gotta buy your pussy, but you want equal pay?
Does anybody need therapy? Seriously, do you need to talk to someone? Because today's video is...
Ah, there it is. Today's video is Noah Samson. You go subscribe to this, follow, thumbs
this
up.
video. Victim or the prize. Rules of modern dating and understanding women. This is the...
Like, I'm going to assume some of this comes from that thing where you see beautiful women in public or in movies and stuff, and you're like, oh wow, she's very beautiful. I'm being affected by that. I'm like, wow, she's very hot. I would like to either be in a relationship or have sexual intercourse with you at some point, right? So it's that mixed with, but I'm being denied that because I'm owed that, obviously. Like, as a dude, I'm owed that. But then why are they denying that to me? Do they think they're all that? Do they think there's something special? You know what? I'm going to turn this into a career. I'm going to get real big mad and talk about how there's nothing to them. What, they think they're all that? They think they're hot? Well, you know, you're terrible. You're the worst. Now I'm going to get real mad and angry.
Video we'll be going over today in detail. Yes, it is a longer clip, but I think it's indicative of a few different ways that these interviews typically go. Pay attention and see if you can notice anything unique.
On Nintendo. Hey, chat, just got back. What's going? Give me more money for my pussy. Well, chat, it's been fun hanging out with you. Yeah, you walked into a weird moment on Nintendo.
About the way this is conducted.
When it comes to dating and relationships, who is typically seen as the prize, the man or the woman?
The woman.
Ooh, the woman for sure. The woman.
The woman.
The woman.
So if the woman is the prize, what would that make the man?
The wallet.
Yeah.
Doesn't that place the man at a lower
that's
value
not going to
and
go
status
over
to the
well.
woman?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Don't women typically want to date a man on her level or higher?
Yeah.
Yes.
So don't women typically want to date a man who's a prize and not a loser?
No, I like to be better.
So if a woman declares herself the prize, isn't that relationship destined to fail?
No.
Okay, so firstly, this guy's an NPC. And by that I mean he's just using a dialogue tree. He has a list of
He's clearly trolling him hard. Yeah, and that was expert trolling, I might add.
questions that he's asking, and he rarely ever deviates from the list, regardless of the way people answer the questions, which makes for kind of a grating viewing experience. But secondly, and more importantly, if we break down the questions individually, we can see a little narrative start to form. Let's go back through these real quick. So he asked,
When it comes to dating and relationships, who is typically seen as the prize, the man or the woman? If the woman is the prize, what would that make the man? Doesn't that place the man at a lower value and status to the woman? Don't women typically want to date a man on her level or higher? Don't women typically want want to date a man who's a prize and not a loser. So if a woman declares herself the prize, isn't that relationship destined to fail?
Now, if your head is spinning right now, that's because it's supposed to be. Through these 6 steps, we have jumped from the seemingly innocuous question about how we view relationships to the conclusion that basically, in order for relationships to work, women need to stop declaring themselves the prize or humble themselves. He is biologicking his way into making sure that women understand that they're not as good as they think they are, without establishing, mind you, that they ever felt that way in the first place. Like, this whole string of questions is very obviously a narrative, with little deviation in potential answers. And even if there was deviation, it's not like it would matter because he just keeps going with the questions. We will look more at the narratives later on, but first we need to go down to the individual question level and break those down.
Thanks, Iron Tobias.
So in many of the interviews, this guy
find it
starts off
interesting.
by doing something tricky, which is where he bakes certain assumptions into the questions.
Just an interesting Christian book for kids, nothing to see here. Learning about sex, why boys and girls are different. Oh my. Don't send this to Tim Pool. He'll get real mad.
That he's asking. Sometimes people are able to catch this and challenge it, but most of the time they don't. And I don't necessarily think they can be blamed for this, because after all, these are street interviews. But let's look to some examples.
If women think men are trash, why are they so interested in getting his commitment?
If women think men are trash, why are they so interested?
I'm red-pilled now and plan on taking over the Manosphere. You should do it, Freems. Get into the Manosphere and then just start, like, trying to pull everyone back out of it. Just get in there and be like, all right, okay, so we're here to talk about why women suck, why they owe us all the sex havings, but they don't give us the sex havings. And on that note, I kind of want to add that it's kind of weird that we think that we're owed sex, as if it is some weird transaction that women are keeping from us. I think that's a weird way of looking at the world. Maybe we should stop seeing the world that way. Maybe we should stop thinking of them as just walking sex vessels and maybe think of them as human beings. Might be a better way to go about it. Probably be less creepy too if you stop treating women like you hate them all, and then that there's some kind of just walking prize to be had. That might be a better way of doing things. Hit like and subscribe.
In getting his commitment. This question relies on 2 assumptions. First, the assumption that women think men are trash. And, well, not all women think that. I think the percentage of women that actually think this is probably significantly smaller than any Manosphere internet dude thinks, and not any greater than the percentage of men that say things like women are trash, which is basically the only sentiment that's being spread around the comment sections of these videos. Dude, this is honestly a great example of why it's hard to respect most women's opinions. The second assumption here is the idea that women are interested in pursuing relationships, which again, not all of them are. And so, if these assumptions go unchallenged, then it sort of seems as though we've been presented with a contradiction, right? Women say that men are bad, but women still want men. What is up with that? I'm 12 years old and this is so deep. And so, if that contradiction is not challenged, or God forbid it's confirmed, then, well, these women must be getting exposed right now, right? I mean, just listen to what her answer was.
If women think men are trash, why are they so interested in getting his commitment?
I mean, good. Maybe for security?
And, well, no, that's not what this is. By asking that question, if women think men are trash, why are they so interested in getting his commitment? What he's doing is just telling us how he feels. He's showing us that he is looking to find contradictions in the actions of women. He wants every woman who's ever dared utter the phrase, men are trash, after getting cheated on or whatever, to be permanently barred from seeking long-term relationships. And if you're gonna be dense about it, yes, that was hyperbole, but my point is that question is obviously loaded. Alright, let's look at another example of these types of assumptive questions.
Why do you think women can't just ignore catcalling instead of just hating on all men?
Okay, hey, wow, this one's a doozy. Here he equates speaking out against being catcalled with hating all.
By the way, I've got a really easy way of explaining this to dudes if you don't understand the problem with catcalling, because I've heard a lot of guys say before, it's like, oh, I would love that. I would love it if women would just like stop their cars while I'm walking down the street and be like, hey, hottie, you look really hot. I want to like eat your ass. That would be the best thing. That would be the best day of my life. I was like, okay, well, it might be a little different if that happens all the time, everywhere, and by people that you're not attracted to at all, or even know, or might be afraid of. That might be something else. But imagine if they were saying something that made you feel uncomfortable. So maybe it's not something like, hey, you look very sexy. What if they just stopped the car, pulled over, and was like, you look like you have a baby dick? What if that happened? Because if that happened, you'd probably be like, what the fuck? And what if that happened all the time? Because just because you think it's something that someone loves doesn't mean it's what they want to hear or are comfortable hearing at all from a perfect stranger on the street. That's what it's like. That's the equivalent of it.
Men, which is pretty telling, right? He may as well be asking them, why can't women just shut the fuck up and enjoy being harassed? Not to mention the fact that women, of course, can ignore catcalling, and often do, and often it doesn't actually work, which is...
No, Duvarian, that one doesn't work because dudes will respond to this. Like, imagine all the people catcalling you were 7-foot Amazon women. Changes the situation much? Because there's a lot of dudes that would be like, oh yeah, crush me, mommy. I would adore that. Like, I would love that. You're describing my #1 sexual fantasy. I want enormously tall, muscular women to just crush my balls. So yes, I approve.
Exactly what these girls say in their answer.
Why do you think women can't just ignore catcalling instead of just hating on all men?
Because when we ignore catcalling, they don't stop. Like, they'll just come up to us and like be more in our face and more aggressive when we do ignore them.
I don't really think there's a way to win. There's been times when I can ignore it and they back off, or there's been times when I've confronted it and they back off, or vice versa. I don't say anything, I continue.
Half the time they're saying shit like, get in my car and come back to my place. Yeah, that's very rapey. Like, don't do that. That's really fucked up. But like, do you want a complete stranger pulling up to you on the middle of the road and being like, get in my car? No. No, not going to do that. Not today.
Need to get followed. I do say something, I put myself in even more danger.
So if you can sit through that explanation of their experiences and summarize it as them just hating all men, then, I mean, this channel probably isn't the channel for you. My channel, I mean, the interview channel is definitely for you.
Why do women pride themselves on manipulation as a skill when they already control what men want?
Why do women pride themselves on manipulation as a skill when they already have what men want? So to translate, what he's saying here is that women control sex because men want sex,
they have the golden
and women
pussy.
are less likely to want to have sex than men, given the dating pool. And so if they already control sex, why should they pride themselves on being able to control? It's just built in. It's just part of the program. They didn't earn that pride. And like, I'm not even gonna try to untangle this because it's full of so many assumptions and problematic notions that it's just too much work, okay? But thankfully, the guy he asked this question sort of picked up on what he was doing here and then challenged these assumptions.
I also had another really weird comment. I think it was one of my videos where someone was like, yeah, but like, why do women like, you know, dress really provocatively if they don't want men to like say things to them? And it's like, maybe because it's comfortable. I don't know. It's very hot outside, so it'd probably be nice to wear less clothing. Now, they're not necessarily wearing less clothing for you. That's not the reason. It's because it's very hot outside, and maybe exposing more skin would feel more cozy. Maybe they just want to feel sexy, but not be sexually impacted upon. That's also a thing that human beings can do. Doesn't mean just because you dress sexy that you are necessarily inviting every stranger who walks by you on the street to suddenly be like, hey, fuck, nice tits. Yeah. And also, to dudes who want to do that, they know. They know. Like, it's not as if you've come up with this novel idea. Like, oh, I've never heard this before. My word, yes, they are quite delicious, aren't they? Yes. Oh my. Well, can I go back to your place now? Is that how this works?
Why do women pride themselves on manipulation as a skill when they already control what men want?
Not all women have that ability. I mean,
Spoiler, and points that out later.
I mean, I can do it.
I'm just doing Noah's work for him.
They can do about anything they want, you know. Because men are dumb enough to fucking pay for it, or men are dumb enough to do it.
This is great, but I think it's also rare when it comes to live street interview formats, just based on the nature of what that is. You're pulling people aside.
Yeah, that goes into the Jordan Peterson shit, by the way. When it's like, oh, why do women wear lipstick? It's to denote sexual pleasure. It's why they do it. To entice us, and we're powerless to resist. They are chaos. And you're just like, because they wanted to look good. A lot of factors could be that there's a lot of societal pressure placed upon women, especially in the workplace, to do a lot of things like look attractive. They're often recommended that they wear lipstick, that they smile more, that they not talk in such shrill voices, you know, at the end of the day, because that would make her a bitch, you know. Well, yeah, don't talk to her. She's a bitch. She's so cold. I don't get it. She wears lipstick, and then when I'm like, oh, can you put that lipstick on my cock? She responds with, well, that's sexual harassment. What the fuck? Well, then why did you wear the lipstick? I mean, I don't understand. What's going on now?
Their night out, putting a bright light and a camera on them, handing them a microphone and asking them questions on the spot. Regular people aren't media trained. They might contradict themselves or say things that they don't really believe or that they haven't thought through. And on top of that, they're most likely not familiar with the context in which this content is going to be used. If they knew that their words were going to be displayed into an echo chamber of thousands of angry, resentful men, I imagine they'd be pretty careful with what they said. Next up, I want to talk about contradiction. One of the most frequently commented points on these videos is that these women are always contradicting themselves, and how it's really very fun to watch these contradictions get exposed. The fact these women don't see their own hypocrisy is the scary part. This girl, while certainly not bad-spoken, was also extremely contradictory. She proclaims she dresses for herself, then gives reasons why that's not the case. She's claiming that how she's dressed isn't for anyone but herself. Yet why dress like that if it wasn't to seek attention from others? Here I want to make the case that many of the contradictions that are pointed out in the comments are actually a product of the framing of the questions. And no, I'm not saying that women can't contradict themselves without being trapped into contradictions by the questions. Of course they can. I support women's rights and women's wrongs. What I'm saying is, in these questions, we can often observe a clear setup and punchline framing that leads people into contradicting themselves without necessarily realizing it. It doesn't always work, but the attempt is clearly there, and we're going to look at that now.
Does the way that you dress attract the type of attention you want?
No, here it is.
Not always.
Not always.
So is it fair to blame society, or is it better to just change your own behavior?
So he's asking this second question as if it contradicts the first answer. You don't get the attention you want, so why blame society when you could be the one changing your behavior? But this only works as a gotcha if we assume that society cannot change. If society is some permanent, unalterable thing where if you're treated poorly for the way you're dressed, that's just how things are. And thankfully for us, that's not the case.
For a lot of women who say they dress for themselves, why do you often see women walking around in uncomfortable shoes and skimpy outfits when it's freezing outside?
You women claim to dress for yourselves, but why wear short skirt heel when cold chilly burr outside?
Do you think men are the biggest threat to women, or are men the biggest protectors of women?
It can go either way, honestly. I mean, it's the good men out there that want to protect, but then there's also bad men that want to do terrible things.
For the person that's assaulting, there's also a good guy that's there to save.
Yeah.
But aren't most cops and soldiers men?
Yes.
So that first question contains something called a false dichotomy. Are men the biggest threat to women, or are men the biggest protectors of women? These aren't the only two possibilities, but asking it in this way is attempting to elicit a certain response. But when they don't give him the response he wants, like the NPC that he is, he just continues with the questions.
But aren't most cops and soldiers men?
Yes.
When he asks this second question, but aren't most cops and soldiers men, again, he does so as if this somehow
Google 40% of
contradicts the
cops to
first.
find out more.
Like you say men are more likely to be a threat than to be protectors, yet most cops and soldiers are men, and cops and soldiers are protectors. So, and well, if that's something that you believe, I encourage you to Google cops 40% to learn more about why it's true. Now here's another...
Fucking Noah. No one's gonna believe I don't rewatch this.
Another thing about this content, specifically the contradiction baiting. It's not like the people watching don't recognize what's going on here. Some of the channel's more, shall we say, attentive viewers have picked up on the fact that many of the answers are being drawn out through a form of manipulation. They recognize this, but they just don't see it as being a problem for some reason. Just when you thought the delusion and double standards on these women couldn't get any worse, It's Complicated once again demonstrates his mastery of unveiling their true nature. The most underrated channel today. It's crazy how they never notice that he sets them up to contradict their whole delusion logic in an instant. This guy's a goat. This guy's a goat, not the goat, just a goat, like a random goat. Bah, bah, why won't you fuck me? Bah. This guy, he asks a basic question in the beginning. Then by the end, he's woven a masterful logic trap that makes the double standards very apparent. Goddamn, this is quality. Notice how in this comment, the person acknowledges that what the interviewer is doing is trapping people, that he's weaving a narrative out of the questions. But to him, this is a good thing? Do you think he would be saying the same thing if the interviewer was a woman that trapped men into showing their double standards? Something tells me he wouldn't, but what do I know? Alright, so this section I'm going to talk about how much of a just genuinely weird guy this interviewer is. Like a weirdo to his core. Cream of the crop creep. But also how this isn't some isolated viewpoint, how it's fairly normalized, and this is not a good thing.
What percentage of men that you encounter catcall you?
A lot.
Probably 85%.
Like we were just touched like multiple times just walking.
Some guy grabbed my nose about 20 minutes ago.
It is a pretty nose, I will give you that.
Thank you. Okay. Look at it from the side.
Okay, so this girl's like, yeah, some guy just assaulted me. Like physically assaulted me. He grabbed my nose 20 minutes ago. And this guy's like, honestly, He had a point. You do have a sexy nose. I would grab it if I wasn't on camera right now. Let me see. Oop, got your nose. Like, it might seem like I'm being pedantic, but based on his response here, isn't this guy interpreting her story of assault as a way for her to try and compliment herself, right? Like, he said, it is a pretty nose, I will give you that.
It is a pretty nose, I will give you that.
Thank you.
Implying that she was somehow asking for that, for some compliment. But see, this behavior isn't just indicative of one person's attitudes. This comment with 92 likes reads, line 1, I'm not dressing for others. Line 2, make sure you get my whole body in the shot to show the rest of the internet. Oh, and here's a profile of my nose. The walking contradiction. Notice the inclusion of the nose comment, as if
Okay, let's just kick up the catcalling example a bit more. Fellas, what if it was dudes? What if dudes, and I'm saying this to straight guys, okay? What if it was dudes to straight guys pulling up in the middle of the road and being like, get in my car? Would you still be like, I just love the compliments. It makes me feel pretty. It's nice to have random strangers pull up in the car and say, you're hot, get inside. And I don't know where they'd be taking me or what's going to happen to me. I like the compliments. I would be, you know, I don't think I'd be very humble or generous if I didn't accept the fact that the compliments are nice.
this was something she was just bragging about unprompted, and not that she was doing this in response to his comment about her nose being pretty.
Like
after she just said she'd been assaulted. The real story, the fact that she'd been assaulted just 20 minutes prior to this, has been reduced down to, wow, look at her bragging about her pretty nose, so full of herself. These modern women... these days, how does this happen? Like, this is the implication of viewing every action ever taken by a woman as being inherently sexual. It makes it so that the woman is always complicit in her assault, because by virtue of having a body that isn't covered from head to toe, or having a nose, she must have been asking for it.
If a woman has lots of sexy photos on her dating profile and no bio, should she be surprised if guys are only contacting her for hookups?
Oh, absolutely no.
No.
Definitely not.
Why not?
Because she's kind of asking for that attention.
Is she not promoting herself in the same fashion if she's out walking the streets in a slutty outfit?
No.
No.
So why would it make a difference if you're online or out in public?
Because you're posting those photos for like a specific dating app while you're walking outside. It's like how you want to dress.
Are you serious? Is that this is the level of discourse we got going on here? He's like, why is it different if you put photos in an app intended to hook up with people versus everyday life? Because I want everyone to get very clear about how I feel about this. If you're dressed sexy, it's because you want it. It's not for you.
I dress this way because I want to dress this way for me and not for anyone else.
So on top of what they said in response, the biggest difference in my mind, and the thing that makes this an incel-ass question, is that in real life, you can't swipe left. Swiping left on Tinder basically allows you to have already consented to interacting with the people you interact with on there. In real life, if you get approached and aren't interested, you have to tell the man no to his face. Or say you have a boyfriend. Or give him a fake number and hope he doesn't stand there and make you call it on the spot to make sure you're not lying to him. And it is often the case, not always, but often, that these interactions can turn into harassment or violence, if they weren't already. 1 in 6 Americans.
What is it? Same shit. Oh, you should be able to hit on people IRL just like on a dating site? Oh, absolutely. But you should also recognize cues and disinterest. If someone doesn't want to be hit on, like, that's when you end the hitting on of them.
American women have been the victim of an attempted or completed rape in her lifetime. And I mean,
and also, it could not be appropriate given the circumstances. Like, if you're at a funeral, for example, probably not the best IRL place to start hitting on people. Just, you know, just read the room, maybe.
Literally, most of the women in this interview talked about how they just experienced some form of harassment or assault that same night. Now, is this me telling all you boys out there to never approach a woman and just turn and run every time? No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is just be normal about it, okay? Say something nice. Write your number on a little piece.
Well, that's the other big part, is that, like, hitting on people, flirting with people, whatever, there's a huge difference between just going up to a woman and being like, wow, you look really hot. Wow, that dress is really short. Oh, man, I can see your tits. Oh, fuck, look at that ass kind of stuff. Because it's just like, okay, well, clearly I know you're horny right now, and you're basically just trying to be like, I like what I see. I would like to smash, please. That's very different than actually just having a conversation with someone as a human, getting to know them a little bit, maybe seeing them as more beyond this, the fact that they're hot. I mean, the hotness is great. It's awesome having sex with someone that you're really attracted to, and I would highly recommend it for everybody. Super, super base, but at the same time, the whole interaction doesn't have to be awkward for the other person.
Piece of paper and give it to her, and then peace out. Leave the ball in her court. Real simple, real smooth, real easy.
Oh, you're just joking. Oh, never. No worries, serious face.
Easy.
Sometimes people, they pop up in the chat and they'll say just the darndest things, and I'm just like, okay, well, I gotta make sure that for everyone else watching, they understand what's going on here.
The last point I want to make about this channel and how it serves to foster misogynistic attitudes, incel shit, is regarding pushback. The interviewer is very selective about which people and ideas that he pushes back against. He lets some people say some pretty wild stuff, just totally unchallenged, if not encouraged.
So why do so many women go around declaring themselves the prize?
Because they have pussies. It's much harder to find a high-value man than it is an average woman. I can fuck any girl out here, but for her to find a man who has clout, status, money, and
ladies, is that what you're looking for? It's clout. How do you measure clout? Are we talking just social media or general clout? It's like, oh yeah, I want a boy with some clout,
influence, all that personality and whatnot. It's way harder. Who's funny, tall, 6 foot, physical specimen? It's way harder for her to find that.
Why do so many women think they have the golden pussy when every woman has one?
Entitlement. Name of the game, straight up.
And only ever argues back and forth off script a couple of times in this video. And when we see it happen, it's pretty much always for the same reasons, or defending the same side, if you will. So this woman here is
Levanzo says, honestly, I'm not bragging. We're going to have some of those Haas emotes come out. But when I was in America, all I had to do was talk, and people hit on me. Well, this is one of the things I try to tell people. I was like, if you are in social situations, normalize and practice just having conversations with people. And if you're trying to meet women, normalize having conversations with women that aren't directly just like, I want fuck. Because, yeah, that's probably not going to go anywhere. And again, they know. Women know that you want fuck. That part is not like mysterious. It's not like, ooh, I wonder what he's all about. He keeps staring at my tits and he's got half an erection right now. Half chub going on down there. And he keeps drooling. Well, we'll have to figure it out through some very civilized conversation. No, normalize just having conversations with people, talking to them, getting to know their interests, getting to know them as people, finding out they're more than just two-dimensional, walking flesh vessels, you know, because again, women are humans and they're just as like amazing and complex and beautiful as every other gender is. So just normalize that. And in the process of doing that, it becomes easier. It's one of those things like anything else in life. It becomes easier to do the more you do it, and it becomes more fun the more you do it. And it's one of those things where eventually you will have the ability to meet people because you will find and pick up cues eventually that through having conversations, maybe this person is more interested in me than simply this. Maybe they do want fuck, and maybe that will be achieved and it'll be a glorious thing for both of you. And maybe there will be more beyond the fuck, because once you're done with your ejaculation, most likely you just want to be like, so, this is weird. I've satisfied myself. This is done with, but yeah, I don't really know anything about you or want to, so yeah. Do you have the Uber app? Do you need me to use mine?
talking about how the worst part about being women is feeling unsafe at night. And the guy pushes back on the validity of this idea.
The worst thing is like having to be afraid all the time, walking around here alone or any place.
Okay, is it realistic to think that nobody should ever feel unsafe?
If it's realistic, I don't know, but it's like my dream.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, okay? Just because women feel afraid all the time, does that mean they really have a right to be afraid all the time?
Sure.
Just because women feel afraid all the time, does that give them the right to feel afraid all the time? Is this question not just asking, hey, should women have rights?
Does that mean they really have a right to be afraid all the time? When,
sure.
Well, at the same time, if a woman is attacked in public and a man is attacked in public, who is more likely to be rescued?
So he's clearly not great with confrontation, because when she...
Jesus Christ, are you serious? I don't think you have a right to be afraid, because I guess statistically, if someone was to attack or assault you here on the street right now, you'd probably be rescued faster than me. So just gonna say...
answers his insane question with, yes, women should have a right to feel afraid. What? He resorts to a little gotcha tactic about women actually being lucky because they would be the first to be saved in a controlled experiment with two people in a crowd of people that always happens exactly in that way.
For a lot of women who say they dress for themselves, why do you often see women walking around in uncomfortable shoes and skimpy outfits when it's freezing outside?
Because I made that money, and I'm going to spend that money on some cute heels. And I worked on this body, and I'm going to show it off.
No, I get that, but I'm just saying if they were dressing for themselves, wouldn't they be comfortable?
Yeah. I think that...
Do you mean literal comfort? As in, why are you not wearing like a burlap sack or a muumuu right now? Because that would be the most comfortable. I mean, that would be optimal comfort, wouldn't it? I don't know. Why don't you do that? Because obviously...
me in heels looks a lot better than me in just a pair of sweatpants. I do feel better.
I love how she has to explain this to him. It's like, yeah, me dressing for myself includes me wanting to look good and present myself in such a way that I like the way I look publicly. That doesn't mean that this is an open invitation for every man to come off the street and start grabbing my nose without my consent. That's not what this means.
And that is still for me. Even if it's not the most comfortable, it feels good to me.
No, I get that. I'm just saying, if you wanted to dress for yourself, wouldn't you want to dress how I want you to dress? How I think you'd be comfortable? Because I think you'd be comfortable if you did what I want. So.
You know what? In Israel, women are badasses. They can beat the shit out of guys. You know what I mean? But I'm just saying, maybe more American women should serve in the army, and they'll know how to defend themselves.
Maybe more men needs to like not be attacking.
Well, I think we can do both.
Maybe.
I think we can do both.
Wow. Imagine. These guys always talk about accountability, okay? Holding women accountable. The top comment on this video literally says, Kevin Samuels said it best, accountability is women's kryptonite. But they would rather make women go into the army to learn how to defend themselves than hold men accountable for their violence against women.
Maybe more American women should serve in the army, and they'll know how to defend themselves.
And yes, he tries to qualify that statement somehow by saying he thinks we should do both, but what the fuck does that even mean? Okay, I'll stop murdering you, but first I need you to sign up for the United States Marines. Alright, so that was a little close reading deep dive into a weird YouTube channel that I found, a funky place. I'm a guy, and I get weirded out when I see guys do stuff like this and normalize it to other guys. Because, and I know I'm not the only one that can see this, but it's straight up weirdo incel shit, okay? Read the comments, it's not even subtle. They're congregated there for a reason, is to put women down. There's no, that's it. That's all they're there for. And we can, come on, what are we doing? What are we doing? Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video.
Yeah, I guess just some other pieces of some quick chat advice that I'll add just as a footnote at the very end of this. The whole like incel ideology about numbers, sub fives, if you are not a Chad with a chiseled jawline and massive muscles, if you don't look like Hassan Piker, you're never ever going to be able to get any single woman that you desire because you only want those 10s too. But unfortunately, the Stacys only get with the Chads, and you're very ugly. And so what can we say about that? You're now going to be part of this weird phenomenon where you're basically removed from the gene pool. And so therefore, ergo, vis-a-vis, you should probably hate women. You should hate women for doing this to you. It's their fault. Their fault entirely for doing all this to you. First off, scrap all that. That's all nonsense, all ridiculous nonsense, because I will tell you this, I have been in a lot of different shapes and forms in my life. I've been very fat at points in my life. I've been very out of shape in points in my life. Women are not exclusively looking for Chads. Yes, we all enjoy Chads, okay? I'm attracted to the male form as well. I like a big, rippling, hairless blonde or whatever. But I'm just saying, at the end of the day, there is a variety of people who are attracted to other people. There's a lot of women who are into quirky guys. There's a lot of women who are into nerds. That's their thing. Like, they're specifically into nerds. I've known women, some of my oldest friends who are women, they don't like dudes who are very muscular at all. That's not their thing. They're into a very specific, like, I like kind of just a silly guy who's kind of wholesome and cuddles me, and you know, I like Nathan Fielder, you know, that kind of type. Like, that's the thing. So the idea that all women are universally attracted to just one kind of guy is false. It's a lie. So there are lots of different women who are going to be attracted to you, regardless of what you are, whether or not you are a twink or you are some fucking muscle clad. It doesn't matter. That's not a real thing. That's what they're trying to like fool you with, to make you think that you're undesirable because of that. Because of this, because women only go for one type of man, and that's the alpha. Well, then unfortunately, you've just been put out of the gene pool, and you should hate women for that, and maybe curse God as well for making you that way. No, you're beautiful in your own way. And I'm not saying, by the way, don't try and maximize yourself in terms of like, be healthy, eat well, exercise. The human body is meant to do those things. You're supposed to eat well. Don't eat junk food all the time. Don't eat fast food all the time. Exercise regularly if you can, all that kind of stuff. That is good, and it is good to live your best life. Be clean, wash, groom, all that is very important, my dudes. Please, women don't want to get with a dude who smells really bad and has like super long nails and gross shit like that. groom yourself, clean yourself, work out when you can. All that kind of stuff is true. But that doesn't mean if you do not attain to this level of pure Chad that you're never going to find a woman, or you're never going to be able to be in a relationship, or no one will ever love you. That is all lies. It is lies meant to peddle you, to get you into this mindset where you're just like, yes, and women are the enemy. They're the ones holding sex away from me. You're going to be able to find women who love you for you. You're going to be able to find, like, there's so many women who will tell you firsthand that, like, you know, a funny sense of humor goes a very long way. It goes like that ups your number. Like, I don't know if you've been watching those memes online right now that is being done almost exclusively by women. Like, he's a 7 but X, he's a 5 but X, he's a 2 but X, or something like that. As in, he's X looking, he only looks as good as this but that. Like, more often than not, you'll hear them say, like, but he's really funny. Like, oh yeah, well, then he's a 10. Or he's a 9, or you know, or whatever it is. The idea that women are only attracted to one type is a complete lie. 100% falsifiable. Do not believe it. It's just meant to make you angry at women, as if they're the ones wronging you, because it's really the assholes. It's the manosphere. It's the pickup artists. They're the ones who are fucking over dudes. They're the ones who are, honestly, they hate men. I contend that they're all misanthropists. They just want to grift dudes and make them as miserable and angry as they are. I don't know what their origin stories are. I don't know if they were all hurt at one point. But this whole mindset where it's just constantly like, it's us versus women. Women are trying to get after us for the money, and then we have to make sure that we dominate them, and they are basically our slaves and all this kind of stuff. Like, no, that is just fucked up shit. It's going to make you into terrible men. No one wants to be around that. No one wants to be around someone else who has that kind of mindset. You would feel the same way if you're a dude and you're around a woman whose entire mindset is about how she hates men and men are destroying the world, and, like, you know, she despises you because you're a man and you're holding her back and all this kind of stuff. Would you spend much time with that? Would you want to hang out with that? Would you want to flirt with that? Would you want to be in a relationship? Would you even want to have sex with that? Would you want to be like, oh, this person is very unpleasant, very, very unpleasant? But I guess it's just the way, you know, that's just how we're gonna do. Yeah, treat people the same regardless of the gender. That shouldn't be like a thing, regardless of the way they look, regardless of all that shit. You know, try your best. We're all programmed and codified with all these weird shits that society puts into us. We're all, it sucks, but try to deprogram yourself and try to just treat everyone the way you would want to be treated. The golden rule. There you go. It applies, you know, the golden rule. I forget to say that I bought into that nonsense about how women only care about money when I was like 18. Unfortunately, my friends were women and they beat that nonsense out of me. Nice. Good. Because it's not true. Like, yeah, we live under capitalism, and under capitalism, there's a lot of things that we have to associate with what makes a man, and that's part of the shitty part of capitalism, being that a man is only truly a man, or really manly if he's successful at the game of capitalism, and then I'm going to want security. So yeah, obviously, I want to get that money, I want to find myself a husband who can support me, all that kind of stuff. That has a lot more to do about really fucked up economic structures than it does about what people innately or inherently want. And if you look at the history of courting back in the day, where women were seen as lesser than, where women were seen as sex vessels and birth givers and all that kind of stuff, they were just property. The marriage was the buying of property for the wife to become yours, so you could secure your bloodline and have yourself a whole bunch of children. Hopefully giving birth doesn't kill the mother. It often did, so is the way, and that was just the way life was, kind of shit. It'll make you much happier in general, and you'll probably find that you'll have relationships in much better ways, and suddenly you might even end up in relationships, whereas the other advice is not going to make you a better sex haver. It's just not. It's, if you see the world in this weird light where it's like women are the enemy and they don't like sex and they're withholding sex from us and they're not sexual and all this weird shit, which is all not true. Women are fucking very sexual, very horny. It's utterly bizarre and will make you into a worse partner. And you won't have the success you're looking for. Like, all that advice is shit advice. Everything from like the game onward, like the game ruined a whole generation of men by putting this idea in their heads that, like, you have to talk down to women, you have to nag them, you have to make them feel like garbage, because then that'll lower their own feeling of value, and then you'll be able to get with them. Like, no one wants to be around some creepy dude who's just like, women are the enemy and I must defeat them. I have all this advice and I know that I'm sub 5, but I know how to destroy them with my techniques. No, you're just a fucking weirdo, you know? God damn.
Do you enjoy the Serfs but prefer not to have to use your eyeballs? Many are saying this. Well, we've got the solution for you. It's the Serf Times in podcast form, available on most major podcasting networks now. If you enjoy it, please consider leaving a good review and feedback, because it really helps the show out, apparently, and it's free, just like the podcast.
To our gods, Xander Corvus and Peyton L. Juste, We shall spend many a generations building mighty cathedrals in your honor. To our monarch, Tom Spiker, we are but your oafish jesters, here to offer you a laugh at any opportunity. To our brave knights of the Round Table, Rachel Kay, Izzy Solidarity, Victoria Bell, Sebastian Demo, Mark Harmon, Benji Arney, Scary Earth Human, Tony, DM Rivera, Resident Scarecrow, Sir Nickus, Cheryl Alvarez, Ruby Kelly, Brandon, Words Greenwood, Everything Important, Hegbert Celine, Matthew Scarborough, Stellar Vision, Ariane McCarthy, Doug Cady, Daniel Sutton, Jenna Tao, Dark Puppy, Quiet One 85, Anna Loves Riley, Omni, Riley and Anna, Poodlehawk, Multimondi, Trevbot EXE, Brian Ephraim, Anthropophojak, Catherine, Ramon Acosta, Incosin, Ralph Parler, Violent Orchard, Political Puppy, La Media Panza, Todd Buckingham, and Todd La Jeunesse. We salute our valiant heroes off to fight injustice everywhere.